Ah, okay, I know I can record it, but I'm not sure where it records. It might record in the cloud.
Probably recording at my end, and I'll be happy to share the file with you.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Now, let's give ourselves a time frame that I can live with. So clearly, what you're going to do is you're going to show me certain things, and I want you to have this understanding. I can add 1 and 1 and 2 and 2. Okay?
Yes.
That's my mathematics. My technology is I can make you a host.
Yes.
Okay, that's number 2. And number 3, everything that you tell me, it may not be Greek to me, but I'll ask questions, and all this is in preparation of introducing you to people on our team who are not only technology savants, but economic as well. So
Okay.
I'm looking forward to what you're going to say. So let me get my notepad and see what you have to say. So Thomas, all yours.
Okay, then I would present some basic ideas of my proposal for a new socioeconomic model. Yeah, is that okay? So I just present some key ideas.
Okay.
So I call this PerCon Flow for perseverance, conscientiousness, and flow state, which are the 3 most promising properties to have as a person to have success in life. That's basically the name. I also think about maybe naming it potentialism, because it allows everybody to reach their maximal potential in life and the maximal potential of society.
Okay.
So these are essentially the topics I can talk about, but since we don't have much time, I would just rush into it. And so, and it's even that Pope Francis is asking us to adapt our socioeconomic models so they have a human face.
Yes.
So, and by a strange coincidence, I actually started with this around 1 year ago, and he wrote this on October 16th. So by then I had my first release finished, and I could answer his tweet pointing to my model.
Oh boy, look at that.
Yeah, so what brought me to propose this is that we have so many crises, and these are just some main crises. But the Corona crisis seems big, but the economic crisis is bigger. Than we have a resource crisis, for example, the delivery shortages and delivery problems, then the climate crisis, biodiversity, and finally the human extinction crisis, if we don't solve these problems.
Yes.
And it's even worse. There are actually 20 big problems. So this is on these slides. So
Okay.
The rapidly opening financial scissors, automation job loss problem,
Yes.
limits of earth resources, decline in buying power of most people, inefficiencies and wastes, breakdown of public services and companies. For example, healthcare is breaking down due to COVID, but also police in Europe, for example, is having problems. In some economic sectors, prices or corruption explode.
Yeah, you skipped over bureaucracy and corruption up there. If you can solve that, you can solve anything.
Yes, yeah, I mentioned the first part, yeah, but
yes.
There's so many, it's difficult in naming them all in such a short time.
Oh
yeah, there's generally much crime and corruption rates and how to minimize them. So it's not just in authorities, but general in economy, and how can we reduce them? There's recessions and economic instability harming especially poor people a lot. Basically, right now, only China and Silicon Valley are making progress. Everybody else loses competitiveness to them.
China, in which country?
And Silicon Valley in the United States.
Where?
Silicon Valley in California.
Oh, is that right? Okay. Okay.
Yeah, then we have problems with mindsets and skills, less education, shorter attention spans, and so on. We have rising international tensions like trade wars and sabotage. Around the Ukraine, there might rise a real war. quickly rising prices, explosion of debts. Yeah, we have no predictable and stable monetary instruments and policy, meaning what the people in the Fed do, and also in national central banks, that's completely undetermined. There's no theory that has proven viable for central banking. So they are just guessing, basically, which is also a problem, because this can lead to hyperinflation. Yeah, most have a too narrow and short-term focus. We have insufficient accountability and liability, and big political inefficiencies and problems. And many countries are overaging, and therefore will run into financial trouble. Especially Japan, Italy, Germany, and China have a very big problem here.
Oh, is that right? I didn't realize China was
yes,
old age.
They had this one-child policy until recently, and that led to dramatic overaging.
I see. Okay.
Yeah, this is how these problems could hit people personally, but I think that's probably clear to you. But yeah, for other people, it might be important. So the general vision is to think about the future. What could the future look like? And what do we need to do now to get towards this future?
Okay.
And I actually found that nobody seems to have a proposal that can solve these 20 problems. I haven't seen one. I discussed with hundreds of people, and I actually didn't want to do this, but I've actually got some idea what could be done, and then researched. Has nobody else had this idea? And it seems like nobody else had it. So therefore, I invested my time to actually document my idea, how we could get out of all these problems at the same time.
Okay.
But
now, PerCon, would you go back to what is PerCon? P-E-R?
Yeah, that's here, yeah. It's explained here. It stands for perseverance, conscientiousness, and flow state. Or think about maybe naming it potentialism.
Okay. Interesting.
So it's basically an upgrade of capitalism, basically capitalism 6.0. So we've been having basically 5 generations of capitalism. It started in the 1600s, and basically what we need is another upgrade to capitalism, but we can stay with capitalism, I think.
Okay.
And also others claim that we have reached the end of growth. I actually think and propose here that we can still have growth, but instead of exploiting nature, we would be exploiting our creativity and increase our technological development.
Okay.
And generate growth this way. So then, okay, then have basically, so this is the way how one model could basically, or we could do the transition. This could be capitalism 5.0. This could be capitalism 6.0, which and then we could transition between the two. But then, so these are some key properties. The key element is to have net benefit value for everybody's work, and also for corporations to remunerate them. Basically, you really pay people based on the result of their work and how society benefits from it.
Okay.
So I'm just quickly running through it. You can look at the slides.
Yes.
Because I have so many slides, I just need to concentrate. So, okay, go ahead.
Interesting. You make a lot of classical references, which I appreciate, even biblical. What is your education background? Where did you go to school?
Yeah, I'm a master of computer science, and I learned psychology as a common practitioner, which is legal here in Germany. You can do some in-depth courses and then treat people psychologically. And I'm mainly an expert for artificial intelligence and cybersecurity, mostly in banking, insurance, and working for the state.
Or do you work for the state or do you work for a corporation?
And I'm an entrepreneur, so I have my own company which has these as customers: banks, insurances, state, basically Germany, Switzerland.
You're a pretty amazing person. How many customers do you have, and are you making money?
Oh, we are highly profitable. So I'm actually more one of the top 1%. Okay, I have also a slide on this. So we have these customers. In the meanwhile, we have some more like SAP also, but we mainly work in these fields.
My goodness.
So finance, healthcare, transport, e-commerce, and other technology. And we have no more than 60 blue chip customers.
How many employees do you have?
We're just 6 core employees and then some external projects, because this is highly volatile business.
Yes. So you have stringers, we would call them.
Yes.
People that are on tap, that anytime you have a special project, you know exactly who to call.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. Interesting.
And yeah, I'm continuing to build my network on LinkedIn also, as you see, like you do it, I guess.
How many followers do you have on LinkedIn?
More than 4,000.
Okay. I have twice that many. But
Yeah,
I'm also twice as old as you.
Okay.
Okay. This is fantastic. Okay. You've got the credentials. I'm sold. It doesn't take me long to figure out which way the wind is blowing. What is it that attracted you when I reached out to you and I said, I'd like to, get to know you. I'd like to see what you have. What is it that when you looked at what I'm doing that was of interest to you?
Yeah, I think we could possibly join forces in first making clear that these 20 big problems exist. Most people don't know about it.
Yeah.
Because also in many countries they're censored away because politicians have no solution to them.
Yep.
And secondly, say that here is no baseline proposal how to solve these 20 problems. Please look at it. There seems to be no other proposal in the world how to solve these problems. And to basically get people to consider this and to think about it as a possible solution, because we don't have much time as humanity. Because, okay, I'll show you these developments.
Tell me before I go into some of the things that.
Yeah, we need a much faster decline in carbon emissions. And for example, we have, more frequent disasters in the year 2030, which is roughly here, we would have $1 billion disaster every day.
Every day.
And here in 2010, it was every 40 days. So within 20 years, we would go from every 40 days, $1 billion disaster to every day, $1 billion disaster. So if that's not convincing, then what is?
It's such a pleasure to talk to you. I mean, you've really made my day. I can't thank you for making me feel warm and fuzzy about this world.
And we have even much more problems because of this COVID pandemic. The economic and health damage that's done is so gigantic that we really need better solutions.
Yes. Okay, interesting. So what else attracts you that possibly we might work together to be able to get out the word about this, to create more awareness, to create more people coming up with solutions? Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes, so my proposal would be to tell people that there is no baseline suggestion how we can get out of these problems. Please look at it and improve it. So I've got a document that I created around this. You can see it, right? So this is the Word document around this, and it's Creative Commons, just mentioned by name.
Yes. And
everybody can edit it and improve it. And that's basically the gift to the world. Here you have a free baseline model that can solve these 20 big problems that we have in some more at the same time. And it seems to be the first one in the world history that can solve these problems. Or do you know any model that can solve these 20 big problems at the same time?
It would take quite a genius. It took genius just to be able to define the 20 problems.
Yes.
To find a genius who would actually have solutions for them, that's going to take some extraterrestrial intervention of a
Yes.
savior.
Yes. Yeah, and it's all, I did invest a big analysis, but there's also other portals like this wicked7.org. They have identified 14 big problems.
Who
extended them a bit.
Who identified that?
So this is here, wicked7.org.
Yes, okay.
So you see it in.
Okay. Well, it's going to be interesting. You can find a nugget in my stream, a nugget of gold of what it is that I'm doing. Why don't I explain what I'm doing?
Yeah, okay.
And then we'll see how it can be applied to you.
Okay.
First of all, let me applaud you for all that hard work. Oh, that's wonderful. Do you know anything about my background other than what you might have seen?
I checked your LinkedIn and some of the links you shared there. I look at those.
Okay.
So what you linked on your LinkedIn page, I know that, but basically nothing else.
No. Well, my claim to fame is that 10 years ago, I was part of Occupy Wall Street. I wandered down to Occupy Wall Street, a few subway stops from my apartment in the city, because I wanted to see what was going on there. I was semi-retired as a collections industry executive. And I've also got a background as a Navy journalist. So I always have a camera ready and a pen and paper ready to chronicle things. So I went there and saw what was going on, did a lot of listening, participating, and I resonated to the complaints, the need to right wrongs, the need to make people aware of the fact that we're going straight to hell if we don't change our ways. And of course, it covers all the sins, economic, social, you name it. So what attracted me mostly was in America, healthcare. We're the only civilized industrial nation that will allow its citizen to go bankrupt because they got sick or because they got injured. And and I, of course, come from a collections background. Some of it, percentage of it, was in medical collections, both working with physicians or hospital groups, and even working with Johnson & Johnson, collecting on hospitals that weren't paying Johnson & Johnson fast enough. But so I did understand that aspect of the collection aspect. I want that check on my desk Friday afternoon, or I'm going to shoot your dog. So I understood that when I walked into Occupy Wall Street, I was a strange agent. They discovered that they had a bill collector in their midst, because whenever someone would talk about how they were being chased down by a bill collector, I'd give them some advice. Or they would tell me about their student loan debt, and I'd say, well, this is what you need to do. And so I was summoned to a meeting at one of these universities, and some very bright people sitting around the table saying, we know about you, and we think you might be able to help us. And I said, sure, what are you doing? And they said, we're going to raise $50,000 to create a 501c4 charity to be able to raise money, $50,000 to buy $1 million worth of medical debt and then abolish it. What do you think of that? And I said, it's about the dumbest thing I think I've ever heard. being as bright a person as I am.
Mm.
And they said, why do you say that? I said, well, number one, $1 million worth of medical debt in my world is not even a rounding error. And number two, if you're looking to get any attention, that's going to look like a gesture. And they very patiently listened to me. And I said, and they said, well, would you like to look at it through our eyes? And my problem has always been that of being willing to look through someone else's eyes. So I said, sure. And they said, well, number one, they pointed out that it's unconscionable to have medical debt bankrupt people. Okay. But they said two things about the program. Number one, $1 million of medical debt might mean nothing to me in my industry, but that's newsworthy. Not very many people know that you can buy $1 million worth of medical debt for $10,000 and collect on it, or $50,000 and collect on it. And they said, secondly, that is newsworthy because nobody's writing about it. It makes sense to me. Now, at that time, I was writing for the Huffington Post, if you're familiar with that organization.
Yeah, which one?
Huffington Post.
Yes, of course, yeah.
Yeah, I was writing for the Huffington Post. And just about the same time. So I said, yes, you're right. This is newsworthy. And yes, you're right. It's only in my world that it's not a big deal. But if Americans really understood the mechanics, things might change. And so I opted in. I got a buddy of mine from the collections industry. We partnered together to work with them. And for the next year and a half or so, we abolished over $30 million of the medical debt, payday loan debt, student debt. In other words, the predatory debt that we're talking about. Good morning, Ted Schulman. How are you? You're muted. You're still muted. And you're still muted. Now you're not.
Okay, yes, there was a dialog box stopping me from unmuting. Hello, everybody. Good morning. I'm sorry I was out. I didn't realize we had the meeting now.
I'm sorry that I got the information to you too late. I sent something last night as well. We're talking to Thomas here. Is it pronounced Piotr or what?
Yeah, but you can say Potter.
Potter?
Yeah, the original pronunciation is Potter, but you can pronounce me just like Potter, with like the English name.
Easier for my Anglo tongue. Okay, it's Harry Potter. No, it's Thomas Potter. Yeah. And you missed an amazing part, but fortunately, we've recorded this, Ted. The man has a new social approach, potentialism, bringing some 20 problems that we're facing in this world to the forefront. And I met him as part of an Impact Entrepreneur conference that I was on earlier this week. And I saw what he was doing and I reached out to him and he reached back and we set up this call. So he's the type of person who speaks your language, Ted. You can tell him about your background in a minute. Complete with Creative Commons and what he does is being a gift to the world. He's successful. He doesn't need money from us. In fact, we need money from him. He has a staff of 8 people, major clients, and his specialty happens to be in the field of technology and AI in particular. Have I missed anything in that description, Tom?
No, that's complete.
Thank you. So where you stepped into the movie, Ted, is that we're discussing a little bit about how LRT came into existence, because what he's looking for is a way to get more awareness of what he's doing and getting the problem out to the public.
And the solution.
Yes. He's created the problems and now he's ready to put it out there so that people can share the solutions.
Well, it's good to meet you.
Yeah, thanks likewise.
So let me complete the tale. So when, and Ted, by the way, was with me in Occupy Wall Street at that time, even though we weren't working together on that project. He was part of the technology and communications apparatus that Occupy was using. He'll tell you more about that. So when Occupy ended, we decided to create RIP Medical Debt in January of 2014. We had the same good idea of abolishing medical debt, something that was bringing in $20,000 a month to Occupy. But when we started doing it for the sheer sake of doing it and not being a protest, the money dried up. You know, people wrap their ideology around whether or not it was a good idea to help somebody out of debt. So we suffered for about 18 months until we were discovered by a comedian in America called John Oliver. I don't know if you're familiar with John Oliver or his work.
No, not yet.
Well, he's very popular here because he sends people and causes up the flagpole and ridicules them. And he decided to do a ridicule the collections world and the debt buying world in America. John Oliver is last week tonight with John Oliver. That's who he is.
Okay.
He has millions of viewers. The short story is he attempted to do a show, was going to do a show on abolishing medical debt, and he did not have his act together. His legal team searched out throughout America to find there was only one organization that existed that had the competency and the understanding to be able to abolish medical debt so that he could do his comedy thing. Well, we met with the HBO executives, passed their vetting easily, and we proceeded to get that as a donation to our charity, along with more money to abolish it and send out letters of forgiveness. And he features us on a show. And the moment he featured us, and he put our logo above his shoulder and said, "This charity abolishes medical debt," our website crashes. That's called getting people aware. So the website crashes, and overnight money starts coming over the transom. Board members show up, technology people, partners, and we became one of those famous overnight successes. Since that time in, well, it must have been 2016, 5 years going in now, we've raised enough money to abolish over $5 billion worth of Americans' medical debt for about 4 million Americans. And we're still on a roll. But I retired from the board in October to create Let's Rethink This, because I wanted to take what I learned there and apply it to people like you, to apply to people who rethought things. Because in my case, I walked in Occupy Wall Street as a debt collector. I walked out of Occupy Wall Street as a debt forgiver. I wanted and made an impact. So what LRT is designed to do is to search out, that's what I call searchlight, spotlight, ignite. To search out those people, causes, ideas, technology that can make positive social and economic impact, vet them, spotlight them, which means creating awareness. Because what I learned from John Oliver is that if they don't know about you, they can't do anything about you.
Yes.
Is that not correct?
Yes.
So this LRT is all about awareness of something that will touch people, that will engage them, that will concern them, that they will then be educated on it. That's why I ended up writing several books and putting on national summits and doing all kinds of things like that to educate people as to what they were now aware of and concerned about. And of course, once someone is educated, which is what was made aware, which is what you're doing with me. Once that person is touched by what they're made aware of, once they're educated about that, then there's only one thing left, and that's action. Taking action.
Yes.
So that's a précis. Now what I want to do is introduce you to Ted, who was one of the very first people who signed on with me, because we have shared values in that arena. So Ted, do you want to take it from there and talk about what we're doing and your role in it? Would you come online so we can look at you too? You're so pretty.
Yeah, I'm having lunch right now, and Thomas, I mean, before I go ahead, I'd love to hear, what you're about, and then I can, respond, probably in a more direct way, to that.
Tom, would you like to put your slides up and hit about 4 or
Yes.
5 of them?
Yeah. Okay, so we've analyzed which problems exist in the world today. So there's, for example, some others have proposed wicked 7 big problems, and we've on this basis identified 20 big problems in society.
And who is we?
We are a company of 6 people. So these are the 20 big problems, the biggest 20 problems, I believe, of the United States, Europe, and other developed nations. And we are a core team of 6 people. So we are these 6 people. Yeah, and I have, of course, friends, but this is our company.
And what are the people's backgrounds?
Mostly IT.
Mostly IT. So, I mean, does anybody have a background in social innovation, in anthropology, in political science?
No, that is missing. That's why we're reaching out to find partners like you, because we be missing that. We are basically technically oriented.
Well, you're not missing that now, Tom, because that's Ted Schulman's role within LRT. He's our resident anthropologist, as well as IT person. So continue. Go to the.
And I'm going to turn my camera off while I eat my lunch, if you don't mind.
That's fine. Thank you. Okay, show the first slide, Thomas.
Yeah, maybe this overview.
No, keep all the way to the top. That one, yeah, the top. Where you're saying persistence, so that's the PER.
Yes, and conscientiousness and flow state are the top 3 properties to have a successful business life. So it's a variation of grit and flow, but grit means perseverance of long-term goals and passion. But that only works for rich people. For those who are not rich, they need perseverance and conscientiousness instead. So so this is based on current science. So these are the top 3 properties for being successful in life. Yeah, and because it's basically a bottom-up approach, I use that as a naming. It could also be called potentialism, or just what I think about regarding naming. But it's about upgrading our capitalism to a generation 6.0, which resolves our top 20 problems in society. And these are the of capitalism, basically. There were several upgrades of capitalism, and I think we need another one to solve, especially the big problems after COVID.
I guess that's a matter of perspective. We need to move past capitalism. Capitalism is a social pathology.
I think it might work even in existing capitalism, but I took the ideas from other movements that want to move beyond, like also Occupy Wall Street and other movements. I read about them and took them into account. But the other thought is, if we want to convince our existing politicians, we must not be too radical, maybe.
What do we want to convince them of? I mean, if the primary problem facing us right now is climate change and the fact that the Earth is currently on a suicidal path because of capitalism, And our current politicians have spent the last 40 years refusing to be convinced. How are we going to convince them now?
Well, before we get too involved in the isms of the time, including, I might point out, our own isms, our own way of thinking of things,
Uh-huh.
I want to first give room and latitude to hear someone else's point of view about capitalism. There is such a thing as, I can agree with you in some points that capitalism has obviously become toxic. But if there's a way of being able to clean the waters, I don't know. I'm open for any possibility. So
yeah, I mean, it can become one of the minor economic forms as new economies evolve, but it has to step aside and become a minor form and not the dominant form.
Well, I'm listening right now to Thomas, and
I'm sorry, I'm sorry for interrupting. Yes, I'm sorry.
I think so. I think the opportunity is to find a concept that's a little less radical, that allows it to really have an incremental upgrade of capitalism that might be acceptable for existing politicians, and that could be then introduced by law to just solve the problem. So my proposal is could basically become a law and could be introduced tomorrow, and then we would be able to solve all challenges at the same time. At least it's a baseline model. I'm not saying I'm perfect, but it has the potential to solve all our current problems. And as you said, we need a much better performance here regarding carbon emissions. We'll have every day $1 billion disaster by 2030, whereas in 2010 it was every 40 days only. So from 40 days, within 20 years, we go to every day $1 billion disaster. And yeah, I'm proposing a solution here that might be acceptable to many politicians. That's the big opportunity, but you must get hurt.
First, they have to become aware.
Yes.
Then they have to become educated. They have to become aware. They have to be touched.
Yes.
Then they have to be educated. So this is a process. It's not just, here's a problem, give me the solution. It's incremental, sadly.
Yes. Yes, and right now we would need 27 Earths because of diversity loss and so on. So there's really many things where we can't go on like we do it right now, where we need a quick change.
You know, each one of these, Thomas, is like a book in itself. Go back to that one slide that you have with the fishes eating the fishes.
Yes.
I think Ted would enjoy that.
Yeah, so we have the Corona crisis here, but bigger is the economic crisis that follows. Then we have a resource crisis, a climate crisis, a biodiversity crisis, and at the end, we as humans are threatened by extinction if we don't solve these problems. And also these UN SDGs, they are not financeable right now. So the UN itself estimates that it costs 2.5 trillion per year to finance them, which is not currently possible in capitalism.
What would be the new social economic model? Like a new, what does you mean by that? The last sentence.
The main principle would be that people no longer get paid by the companies, but by the communities or state, and that they only get paid based on the net benefit value they produce. So if people only talk and don't get results, they would only get a universal basic income, but nothing beyond that.
Okay, interesting.
But that doesn't sound like capitalism.
Right now, it's not part of capitalism, but it could be made a part. It's just a matter of a law.
Well,
and how is this dealing with the monetary system itself, which transcends capitalism? Because the monetary system, the banking system, also controls all of the socialist, communist, fascist countries that are within its jurisdiction, and they're also having the same problems.
Yeah, that's my proposal, to do it like China does it now, to introduce one central cryptocurrency that is completely, and that and the amount of crypto coins would also be completely controlled by the state.
Okay,
And
and,
that
and we have very, very different focus understandings of the way to move this. I personally believe that a single currency is like monocrop agriculture, and that the way to move ahead is with multiple currencies and value systems, and moving control to local communities, and taking as much power away as possible from any central authorities.
Yes, that's. I'm for similar things. It's called DAOs, distributed autonomous organization, based on cryptocurrencies, completely decentralized. But there's a risk of hyperinflation, and many crypto coins, don't gain value but crash. And if there's one central currency that's controlled, then we can basically keep the monetary value stable.
And that could be based on something like the price of honey.
Yes, exactly.
And that would make sense to move it away from any of the fiat or current abstract value sources. Honey, there's a group up in Connecticut that's been doing their economy based on the value of honey.
Yes, or another value, but based on the value of goods, basically. Then it could be kept stable. And they basically also develop tools for human cooperation and make everybody cooperate efficiently. But it's just one proposal. So I'm actually trying to be minimally radical, so that it might be appealing to politicians to get this introduced. So basically the least intrusive solution that would solve the problems. That was the idea. I'm also open to alternatives to, and I also described them in my Word document, these alternatives to have no more money. So this is here. So there's a big document, which is Creative Commons, which describes the details of what I'm proposing. And then there's basically, I'm describing how this economic system would work here in detail. And there's ways how to even do without currency.
Where did you find the time to do this?
It's basically the effects of the crisis. Of first, I had COVID and was sick, but I could still type. So I used my time of sickness. And then basically I had to find new customers. Most customers had halted their projects. So I did this in parallel to finding new customers, basically when not having anything better to do.
Well, I'll tell you what, you have my attention, and I know you have Ted's as well, because we are looking for thinkers and rethinkers. Going back to what we do, and let's rethink this. If we were to partner with you, we would want to see that your story gets out there. That's the awareness part. At the moment, even though I have a Rolodex of journalists and writers and podcasters and what have you, of a broad variety, most of them are in medical. So I would think that one of the ways that we might want to introduce you is to get the camel's nose under the tent. And that is, if we were to do something that is, as you had one of your diagrams, COVID started the problem, which is now economic, which is healthcare, which is, so if we were to work within that, it would be very, very interesting. I think it would catch people's attention and cause them to read deeper. Does that appeal to you?
Yes, of course.
Okay.
That's really a skill gap to get to find out how to get people's attention for this. And
well, that's our world. That's what we do.
Thomas, I dropped in the link to the seafood ecosystem, yes, which is the approach I've been taking on transformation, which is focused on bioregional development. And and that kind of, that website overviews, the general approach. And the bioregional development is something that I'm interested in extending through Let's Rethink This. Bioregional development for urban areas, for rural areas and for the oceans and watersheds. So those are the three primary areas of bioregional development that I'm working backward from. And now with the craze around Meta, with Facebook introducing Meta and the virtualization of society, I'm working on a new project called Flow Meta, free, libre, open Meta. And I've been carrying the open source flag since Occupy, or before Occupy, on how open source technologies and open source culture can be truly transformative in the market. So that's where I'm coming from.
Okay. Yeah, I also have a chapter on this development, or maybe quickly, that I thought about. Oops, yeah. So here you see I've got underdeveloped regions, countries, and land life, and how to develop them. I've got a bigger chapter on this, a subsection. So this, I try to highly structure this. And this is here. So that's also an important topic for me.
Okay. Do you have, how do you sell your products? How do you get people aware of your products to begin with? Because the good thing about you, of the many good things, I'm sure, is the fact that you have enough resources financially to be able to spend the time to do this. Not a lot of people with resources who fall into the 1% will say, would be able to say that or do that. So if LRT is going to make you visible, it's also going to make your company visible, which means, frankly, good news, because the idea that we have behind our work is that we partner with people and work on a finance or an equity position, so that anything that we do to improve what they're doing or bringing in new investors and new customers, we get rewarded. Does that work in your world?
Yes. So we are right now basically in AI consulting company.
Yes.
And we do mostly direct sales. So
Yes.
contact people on conferences and we get recommended, and
Yes.
we are linked in Germany and Europe. We have other social networks also, like Zing or Crossing.
Yeah.
But it's mostly a little bit of marketing, conference presentations, but mostly direct sales and recommendation. And
Well, how does this sound to you? And by the way, I'm running close to completing my availability, but Ted, I would like to have him stay on with you and do more conversations around this.
Mhm.
But I would like to plant a seed, and that is, if you would create a marketing budget for your organization so that we could market you and be able to have money to do the things that we're doing, which means getting out the word about this
Yes.
and about you. I want you to sort of take that into your thinking, and then we'll talk about what we're doing with other organizations to be able to take them, frankly, from zero to hero. Even though what you're doing is great and bringing a lot of money, there's a lot more out there, not more people that could use you.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, exactly. So we used this future vision also as a vision how to expand as a company and for business ideas.
Okay.
And that's where we could cooperate by possibly finding investors or finding new customers.
That's what we're designed to do. And the good news is, see, basically, we're a B corporation in America, which means it's a public benefit corporation. It's not a charity. We don't go hand out. We say we're a business, but it's the stakeholders are just as important, and the customers are just as important as the stockholder. So that's what distinguishes us. So I'll let you and Ted continue to have a conversation about this, and I'll be back to you with some of the things that we're working on. And of course, Ted, if you feel comfortable, you can go into that as well.
Mhm.
Yeah, and a first thing we're doing is to give workshops about flow state. But
Okay.
to
Well-
corporations especially. Maybe you've heard about 10x programmers, 10 times more productive programmers. The key behind this is flow state. So in generally it can be up to 5 times more productive. Programmers can be 10 times or more productive. And we are right now approaching our existing customers and new ones to do flow state trainings. That would be a first topic where you could help.
Good.
Otherwise,
Yeah.
we use this idea basically general to say what is our vision, and then on the pathway, these are business ideas basically that we also developed, and we have slides on this where people can invest also.
Yes. Well, you're talking our language there. I'll let you go now. I'm so pleased that you reached out to me, Tom. And enjoy your conversation with Ted. And Ted, I can check in with you later today to see what your thoughts are on this. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, you guys. Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Yeah, thanks. Bye-bye.
If I leave, I hope I don't take everybody with me.
When you leave, it should give you the option to transfer it there.
Yeah, I think since I'm the host now, it's probably.
Oh, if you're the host, then we're cool. Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, I take an anthropological approach at this. I've been doing technology development my entire career for 40 years now, and I have a degree in anthropology and have been focusing on how that informs media. You know, from Marshall McLuhan and Buckminster Fuller, and now I'm focused on bringing an integral approach to development. Are you familiar with integral theory and Ken Wilber?
A little bit. I know the Buckminster Fuller Institute and these concepts a bit, but not to all details.
Yeah. So I try to look at long-term social changes and movements, and we're in a critically transformative time right now, and so that's been my focus, and my focus is really on what has to happen to the deep pathologies in society that have to be addressed before anything else can be addressed. That if we look at the systems as organic systems, information technology now, everything is information. As information technologists, if we take a step back and understand that everything is fundamentally information, then what is the role of information technology at this point in time with the technology that's developing? I see information technology as the leading evolutionary force for humanity, and as an organic evolution, not as anything different from our thinking.
Yes, I agree. So this entire proposal is a high-tech IT and AI proposal.
Mm-hmm. Let me share with you something that I've just started. Well, first, let me share with you this link: systems innovation. These folks impress me totally. They are looking at long-term change and innovation and how to address it. And they have a tremendous amount of references, methodologies, templates, and so forth. So up until now, in terms of method and reference, this is the single best source that I have found.
Okay. Yeah, I also looked into e-learning technology, and basically my insight was that still flow state is probably the most single most efficient to learn faster and more efficiently.
Mm-hmm.
And I have applied that personally to me, and it made me very successful, flow state learning.
So what are your needs? So Jerry left us to follow up on his discussion. What would you like to see happen with LRT? And how do you think LRT can work with you?
Okay, so I have difficulty getting the awareness about the 20 big societal problems and our solution into the world. So actually, this is much harder than I thought. Actually, the difficulty is that economics professors and think tanks, they are either afraid to be considered revolutionaries or idiots or crazy people, and our think tanks often have a hidden agenda. Of some billionaire or so, and then
Yeah,
a professor should come up with this.
I'm looking for.
Also, the attention spans of people are very short, and this is a complex, very complex solution. So most people don't have enough attention and don't have enough time to consider this seriously and think somebody else should be proposing this. So these are actually relatively big hurdles to get this considered.
The link I just dropped in now, this is also called the intellectual dark web. and these are what I view as the leading edge thinkers, think tanks, people that are truly moving the dialogue forward. So I'm not sure if you're aware of these websites, people, or these discussions, but these are groups that I think would be more open than standard establishment groups to what you're doing.
Yes, I know about many of them. I even contacted, for example, Jamie Wheel and Charles Eisenstein and some others of the list. But they're also not so open. So actually these two people have not yet looked in the detail at my model.
I mean, your model sounds in first blush more traditional than most of these people would focus on. More traditionally working within the current framework. And I think in terms of a lot of visionaries, there's an overall pretty broad rejection of the current framework in total.
Yeah, also rejected. But I think a non-revolutionary model is possible. That could be introduced by law, and that's a big opportunity to possibly maybe just convince a single country, maybe even a small country, to introduce this by law, and then it would become far more competitive.
Which is a different approach. Systems innovation, when they look at these broad social changes, it can't be mandated, it can't be legislated, that you have to develop systems that are more attractive and that people move to them, so that these are not revolutionary but evolutionary proposals. Revolution, tends to be violent and tends to create blowback. Evolution is slower but is deeper.
Yeah, so this model could also be introduced after a revolution, but it could also be introduced in an evolutionary way. So I tried to think what is the least intrusive way how to improve. So since we need to free trillions of dollars per year, and so we need a bigger change, but it could be done by law, I think, or by gentler methods than having a revolution.
Well, I mean, we're both in favor of not having a revolution. Yeah, and I don't know your process. I came into this meeting cold. I'm sorry, I came in, I saw the meeting, so I had no chance to background myself on what your stuff is fully about. So I'd like a chance to really look through it. but and please drop in the best links for me.
Yeah.
that,
Okay. Yeah, I will do that just a moment. Okay, then go on. I'm loading.
And now your business, again, as I said, I came in cold, and Jerry, it sounds like you have clients and so forth. What
Yes.
is it that you're focusing on that side? What are you offering them? Are you offering them some type of transformational approach?
Yes. No, this was separate. PerCon Flow or Potentialism is completely altruistic and non-commercial. So it's basically a gift to the world. So anybody can use it and can consider it. Then as an AI company, we do AI consulting and also have some pitch decks about AI-based business ideas for which we're looking for investors.
Uh-huh.
We can invest some money ourselves. We're highly profitable, but AI ideas are so expensive, they typically need multiple millions, which is maybe too big risks for just us as a smaller company alone.
Okay. So
it's basically two lines. We have a profitable business and business ideas, and this basically altruistic, non-profitable PerCon Flow.
So I mean, I need to go and get a better sense of what you're about, clearly, right? But it's intriguing. It seems like there, certainly stuff for us to be looking at, and I think, by mixing some of what informs each of us, we can come out with something more powerful.
Yes. So I'm basically open in all directions. So,
yeah.
So
okay. So let me show you just here.
But maybe one thing is here, especially here in Europe, we should avoid to be pigeonholed. So that's what people here in Europe try to do and say you are. They have different types of chaotic people. They say you are a chaot of type 13 or so. We won't consider you. And then the conversation stops. Yeah. Some say this and some don't say this. So that's a big risk of not being considered if they consider us chaotic. So I'm trying to make this completely scientific with a minimal attack surface.
Here, okay, let me share my screen now.
Can you do that? I might have to make you host.
Yeah. No, you can just turn on
I
sharing.
can make you co-host, yeah.
I didn't. Okay. Let's see. Can I share now? Yeah. Now I can share. Okay. So this is a presentation that I've just started a couple of days ago called Flow Meta. And this is a response to Facebook's Meta. I've been working with a group in New York called Silicon Harlem. You're familiar with Harlem in Manhattan?
Yes.
So I've been involved with Harlem for about 30 years, and my friends have set up this organization to bring broadband and new technology into underserved communities. They're also working with a National Science Foundation project called Cosmos on community edge computing, which will be the next generation 5G technology. So what I'm proposing here is that we create a mirror community, a mirror world that is a virtual version of Harlem, that we sell real estate as NFTs to support this. And that this actually builds on a project I started about 13 years ago with Pete Seeger. Back then, Pete, the folk singer, he was involved with cleaning up the Hudson River. And we started a project called Flow Earth, free, libre, open Earth for environmental transformation. Then Occupy happened, and that website evolved into Occupy Earth. And I facilitated Occupy Earth and Occupy's relationship with the United Nations during the Earth Summit. And now the next step for me for this project is Flow Meta. And Meta in the gaming world also means most effective tactical method. So here we're presenting open source as the most effective tactical method. And what I'll be describing, it's not here yet, is the metaverse, the meta narrative. What's the big story of our time? What are we telling each other? What are the big tribes? How do we form a tribe? How do we form greater thinking? And how do we form greater innovation? That's as far as this page goes. And then just welcome to the future. And it will be based on multi-stakeholder involvement, new economies. It will be bioregional, and it will enhance trust and respect. So yeah, that's what I have at the moment. I've started a white paper on that also, which backgrounds backgrounds in the technical, scientific, and cultural perspective.
Yeah, okay, then we also have a lot in common, because I was also thinking about this, about the same topics. Maybe just quickly present it so you see that it is. So I'm also working on 3D metaverses. You can see it, right? This is the market. These are the global platforms, VR technology, and we're working on a combination of blockchain metaverses in distributed autonomous organizations to test this PerCon Flow model online. So this is the bottom-up approach. And there's other ways to do bottom-up introduction of this PerCon Flow, and also NFTs.
Yeah, and my focus here is that these communities, local communities, will actually be community owned, so that as they develop, there'll be the opportunity to move economies, to move innovation into the mirror world. You know, I don't know if you've looked at Facebook's launch, Zuckerberg's
Yes.
hour-and-a-half introduction, which was obscene from my perspective. I mean, what he's showing us is Second Life with VR headset on, and not much more than that. And I know Second Life tried to do a VR system a couple of years back, and they gave up on it because it didn't work for them. You know, so, you know, what is his vision other than to capture the market and the, you know, and control, you know, just through putting it out there? You know, it's not my version. It's not my understanding of what a metaverse can be by any means.
Yes.
You know, so I want to, you know, it's got to be open. It has to be open. The people have to control it themselves. There has to be deep privacy. Last year, I was working on a contact tracing project with Silicon Harlem, and we were also working with Inrupt, which is Tim Berners-Lee's company at MIT. And they're working on alternative privacy, owning your own wallet, owning your own place in the internet, and then sharing your data only as needed. You know, so these are all different kinds of criteria that we want to take into account in these systems. Okay.
Yeah, I agree. So I work on similar technology. But I think our world needs a quick solution to really not hit the wall, because the current changes are so dramatic and negative that we need a massive response to upgrade.
The problems are so deep. I mean, as we get to know each other, and and we talk about, where the depth, what's the paradigm shift. I mean, I believe in somehow a purposeful evolution, that the tree is in the seed, right? And that we are at a point of evolution where we're moving into the next phase with this technology, and we either evolve or we fail to evolve. So it's not being radical. It's seeking a way forward. It's seeking to build alternatives because the current system is failing. So rather than trying to prop it up, I'm focused on what are the alternatives that can be there when the current system fails.
Yeah, I also researched that. I have a comparison document on that I can also share with you.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
So,
but the key is the shift in our understanding of our place in the universe. Literally, that we believe, we've grown up believing that the world is mechanical, and consciousness is primary in the universe. And once we get that leap, then a whole new world of possibility opens up for us when we understand that it's a crisis of consciousness.
Yes, possibly. So I had this model as inspiration. So it's a conscious inspiration. So it's probably already a consequence of being an awakened person.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Cool. So we should follow up. We should plan follow up for sometime next week. I can look into, get up to speed on your information.
Yes, of course. You can contact me here on this email address, tp@compre.com. Yes, I'm open. So, we basically need help to get this out into the world, the awareness of the problems and of that there's a possible solution. Mm-hmm. And ideally, if you would like to help us, it would be great if you could help to propose this as a baseline solution that can be improved. But I think nobody has made a complete model proposal so far as I know, that is really likely to solve all problems at the same time. Or do you know one?
No, there is no complete model out there. But the sense-making folk are the best groups, that are looking to work on complete models. Daniel Schlachtenberger. Are you familiar with Daniel Schlachtenberger?
Yes, I'm connected with him on LinkedIn. Yes. Yeah,
and the people following him, those people are looking for complete solutions. Integral. The foundation of Integral is that a solution needs to work in what are called the 4 quadrants. When you're doing problem solving, how does it affect the individual inwardly and outwardly? How does it affect their internal? How does it affect their physicality? And then the other quadrants, how does it affect the collaborative? Internally, the society, the culture, and how does it affect the environment? And you need to be looking at implications in all 4 quadrants to come to complete solutions. And for the most part, almost all solutions tend to be single quadrant focused, which is a problem, right? They're not taking the full picture into account.
Yeah, I've been trying to take the full picture into account, and I think I succeeded, but you can look at it and tell me your opinion.
Mm-hmm. So it's a pleasure meeting you. Anything else you want to go over? Because I just feel at a loss now, not really having an understanding of your stuff.
No problem. It's maybe best if you start looking at the slides, this overview and AI architecture. So the basic links I put into the chat, and I also contacted you on LinkedIn. So you can just confirm, and then I can send you even more information. But what I shared with you are already around 600 pages or 700. Oh. So it should be good for a first look. And probably the PowerPoint or no PDF exports of PowerPoint are the most efficient way probably to look at it.
Okay, very cool. And take a look at seafood ecosystem, just for broad approach that's happening there. That project we thought we had funded last year through an impact funding organization, but the money was coming out of Hong Kong. And when Hong Kong fell to China, that all fell through. So, so that project needs to be focused on again.
Yeah, okay. So but I'm more interested in this macroeconomic part to really have a solution that can be done now. And then on actual AI-based projects. So we're an AI company.
Mm-hmm.
So it would be more our focus, or we maybe do something in the intersection. So basically using AI for maybe for the metaverse and for DAOs and so on. Maybe to calculate the net benefit value of what people are doing using natural language processing or so. Things along these lines could be at the intersection of our interests.
There's a lot to explore, and then there's a whole other project that is in early stages. I was contacted by a developer, an engineer out of Flint, Michigan, who's working on a system that will help deaf people speak, and it will then visualize sign language for them. And for the deaf community, that would be revolutionary. And what I found is that there's no greater underserved population than deaf people, especially deaf children. So that could be a very impactful, and that could use AI in it as we develop that.
Okay, yeah, possibly. So in Europe, we have free healthcare. So in Europe, they are not underserved, or not as much as in the United States.
Underserved in terms of if you're born deaf and you grow up learning sign language, there's no real relationship between sign language and English. And you're then thrown into a system that's not able to effectively bridge it. So I know in the United States, it's a major problem. I don't know how it's dealt with in Europe, but I would suspect it's still highly problematic.
Yeah, maybe. Unfortunately, nobody in my family is deaf, so I have no first-hand experience.
Yeah, I mean, it's a major problem in Africa. It's not that, there aren't that many deaf children born in developed countries, but in Africa, it's a massive problem, actually.
Yeah, okay. But one part would be, I would really like this to be considered at the very top as really macroeconomic model. So not just basically losing time in small projects. So we also do them as commercial projects, but this altruistic PerCon Flow should be really considered as capitalism upgrade, as a socio-economic model. It's not as, so we could try some smaller projects to test it in some parts. That would be mainly in the DAO space, distributed autonomous organizations, or virtual reality or so. But it could also be simulated by some professors, or using AI to simulate the behavior of people in such a model. And there's other ways they are described in my document how we could test it and introduce it, either top down or bottom up.
Interesting. Another area that I'm very interested in AI around is conflict resolution.
Yeah, that's also where I'm working on.
And I have a very good relationship with the conflict resolution group out of John Jay Criminal College in New York. They're the leading authority in the Northeast, and they have 3,000 members. So they're a pretty influential group in that area.
Yeah, that's great, because a key component of my model is to avoid or resolve conflicts, to make us more.
Yeah, so we have thousands of experts we can reach out to there. Yeah.
Okay,
cool.
Yeah, that's a great commonality. Yeah, then please have a look at this, and yeah, if you would like to, I can also give you access to my comparison of models, because I really looked at everything that I could find, around 20 models.
Yeah, I mean, whatever you have, it would share with me, and I'll dig through it. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, great. Okay, then yeah, please send me an email or accept my LinkedIn invite, and then I'll send you more information.
Cool. So pleasure meeting you.
Yeah, thanks,
And-
likewise.
And we'll pick up sometime next week.
Okay, thanks. Then have a great day. Bye-bye.
You too. Enjoy. Thanks.
Bye. Thanks.